So today I'll be talking about the Railroads on Parade pageant at the 1939 World's Fair, and about the presence of trains at the fair in general. The pageant was a culmination of the past, present, and future of American railroading, and embodied the hopeful tone of the World's Fair in general. The 1939 World's Fair was a grand spectacle, constructed outside of New York City to showcase new technologies and the countries of the world. It was explicitly focused on the world of tomorrow and welcomed people to experience the dawn of a new day. American corporations had an opportunity to exhibit their finest products and their visions of the future based around future innovations in their field. The fair came at a time when unbridled optimism for the future was something that was desperately needed. The world was beginning the arduous climb out of the Great Depression, and the fair gave them something to look forward to as mankind moved forward. Tomorrow was going to be better, the fair assured people. The heavy-handed futurism of the fair was a direct result of just how badly things had been going for everyone. The Railroads on Parade pageant was a presentation of the progress made by American railroads over the course of history. It was nostalgic for the success of the past and sought to tell people that innovation would continue. To the characters portrayed in the pageant, the Depression was but a mere bump in the road. Progress would march forward unfettered by the temporary economic hardship. With the frontier more or less conquered, the new approach to manifest destiny was through the future. Humans had conquered the land, and soon they will conquer space and time as well. Now that the West has been settled, it'll be converted into an efficient utopia, free of all the trappings of the present. Even though America could no longer move forward physically, it would now move forward technologically. The pageant featured locomotives from every age of railroading, and showed how each played a part in the expansion of the American Union. The event culminated with the introduction of large, powerful, streamlined passenger locomotives from the New York Central and Pennsylvania railroads. These locomotives were intended to represent the future of American transportation, and that the best was yet to come. The performers were then greeted by a woman of the future, clad in classic futuristic garments, who would unite the people of the past and the present. She and the locomotives served as envoys for more advanced time. The people could look to her and feel that everything was going to be okay, and that the Depression would not win out over human ingenuity. The locomotives were not their locomotives, but hers. They had been gifted the privilege of witnessing the train of the future. The stars of the show were the streamlined locomotives. New York Central, Dreyfus-Hudson, number 5449, and Pennsylvania Railroad, K4, number 3768. They represented the future of railroading and were designed by industrial designers Henry Dreyfus and Raymond Loewy, respectively. The two engines provided the audience with a glimpse of what the future held. The future was artistic, clean, powerful, and optimistic. Despite this, the locomotives themselves were nothing special. Underneath the streamlined shrouding, the Hudson was a relatively realistic achievement. It was the result of years of small changes and innovations that had culminated in one of the most advanced steam locomotives of its time. Without the shrouding, however, it was difficult to realize this because, while naked, it didn't look very innovative. The only thing that would really convince people, it was believed, was a distinctive Art Deco streamlining. The K4, on the other hand, was an older yet equally proven design. There was nothing that really separated it from its brothers except its custom streamlining. While the engine was living it up at the fair, there were dozens of mechanically identical others toiling in obscurity on the Pennsylvania Railroad main lines. That was what true progress actually looked like. This process is a classic example of futurism. People imagine newer versions of the technology that they have at the time as opposed to inferring that many new technologies hadn't been invented yet. The concept of the shrouded steam locomotive was a unique example of this philosophy in that it was actually applied. In a way, locomotives were not actually the train of the future, but instead mimicking the true train of the future. Streamlining made maintenance a hassle, and despite its speed advantages, it mostly served as an aesthetic example of how advanced a particular railroad was. In the long run, it was just cheaper to just have all their locomotives standardized. A brightly colored or metallic steam locomotive, as one can infer, can grow very dirty very fast. There is a unique irony in the presence of the Hudson and the K4 at the World's Fair, as a few pavilions over, GM was showcasing their new diesel-powered E-unit design, the true heir to the future of rail transportation. The diesel locomotive, though less futuristic than a streamlined steam engine, was cleaner and cheaper to operate, and within 20 years, the steam locomotive would become a relic of the past. Another piece of technology that was displayed at the fair was the Pennsylvania Railroad S1. In attempting to create a train of the future that was innovative on the inside and outside, the designers of the S1 did the only thing that they could think to do: go bigger and faster. As can be expected, this was not the real future. The engine was too large to operate on most lines, and it proved difficult to maintain. This locomotive of the future was the first to go when the diesels arrived on the scene. Looking back, locomotives like the Dreyfus-Hudson, it was very much a product of its time. It evoked the future as it was maintained in the 1930s. It is a perfect example of 1930s Art Deco styling. When compared side by side to much of the art from the time, it becomes apparent that it was more a piece of art than anything else. Imagining the future is more art than technical speculation when you think about it. and the Hudson is a prime example of that. The visions of the future that were displayed at the fair and at the parade didn't actually have to be accurate predictions of what was to come. That was not their job. Their job was to fill people with hope for the future, a hope that they so desperately needed. Things in the world were on the precipice of getting much worse, and the people needed something to keep going. Futurism does this by definition. It is more about taking people away from their reality and transporting them to a better one. It is a sort of inverse storytelling. The technology displayed at the fair was there to convince them of a better tomorrow, and that humanity had the potential to break out of the malaise of the 30s and grow both socially and technologically. To quote Kranzberg, technology is a very human activity, and so is the history of technology. The pieces of technology that were displayed at the fair sought to elicit an emotional reaction from the visitors. Items that at face value had solely utilitarian purposes were helping to boost the morale of the masses. The fair was not about technology itself, but about the interactions between humans and the technology. The future keeps people striving to be better. That is its function. Despite how unremarkable it may actually seem in person, tomorrow is always hopeful for the person of yesterday. Looking forward to the future can be accomplished in various ways. The World's Fair attempted to quell social fears with technological futurism. If humans can keep succeeding in the technological sphere, then they must also be succeeding socially. As far as futurist predictions go, the inferences made at the World's Fair proved to be incorrect. But when a person reflects on that time, it becomes apparent that the people at the 1939 fair knew this in their hearts, as everyone does. It is presentist to think that they were fooled by the utopia put before them. Despite the fact that the future that was displayed was just a story, it was a story that gave people hope.